Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking a look at the next week's slate in a massive matchup in the Big 12 as Kansas State heads on the road to play the Texas Longhorns. And this is a Kansas State team that I feel like people just kind of threw away in the trash can. It was the Big 12 darlings heading into the year, and then they go on the road and lose to Missouri in a really close game. And then they go on the road and lose to Oklahoma State in a game where they just played really sloppy. Ever since that game, this Kansas State team is so back. They found their identity running the football, mixing in a little Avery Johnson. Will Howard, he's taking his game to the next level, probably getting pushed by Avery Johnson. Going on the road to play a Texas team that, I get it, the narrative, no Quinn Ewers, you have Malik Murphy. This defense is still so good for the Texas Longhorns. They can still run the football. They still got one of the best group of playmakers catching passes. This game has a lot of writing to be a very fun one in the Big 12. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. The amount of support for all of these game breakdowns, it truly does mean a lot. We have a blast taking deep dives into these programs, but the best part about doing it is talking ball with y'all. So if you guys have games, picks, predictions, keys to the matchups, put them in the comment section. We'll chop it up. Really excited to get in this one. Dill, Kansas State heading on the road to play Texas. I'll give you the T-box here. How we feeling?
Kansas State's a bit of a victim of scheduling where they lost to Missouri and Oklahoma State.
A very good Missouri team.
Before we realized Missouri was really good, and Oklahoma State is no joke. And obviously, that's a game they shouldn't have lost, and they did play poorly. But honestly, those two aren't terrible losses. And frankly, you see what they've done in the past 2 weeks, absolutely pumping teams. And I don't think Houston and TCU are like the best teams in the country. But to go beat up Power 5 teams like the way they did it, very impressive.
This Kansas State team has found its identity. And that's where I want to start because this is where the most interesting matchup in this game is. Kansas State running the ball 56% of their offensive snaps, 24th in the country, doing a damn good job of it. 5.3 yards per carry, that's 12th in the country. Going up against the Longhorns defense, especially in the front seven, is absolutely dominant. They're starting with Kansas State running the football. I mean, that offensive, my biggest takeaway is DJ Giddens and Trayshawn Ward are great. I knew they were good coming into the year. This Kansas State offensive line has turned it up a notch the last couple of weeks. And I think sprinkling in Avery Johnson in that quarterback run threat has really helped this offense kind of find its identity of running the football again. And that's meant the world to this Kansas State team heading into the back half of the season.
Yeah, 100%. And this has been a unit that's run the ball now for a couple straight years really effectively. And what I love about what Kansas State does is similar to, frankly, how Oklahoma State does it. They do a really good job using their quarterback to operate off that run game masterfully. I mean, a lot of play action, a lot of running guys across the field, just doing some things that, again, take advantage of the fact that they run the ball really well in using that to, like, propel their pass game to a new level where, again, I don't think Will Howard is what he is without that rushing attack because he's not like the super talent. Very good quarterback, but not a guy who I think puts that team on his shoulders and win.
Oh, 100%. Will Howard's a great quarterback, but you're right. He operates this offense extremely well, especially once Avery Johnson's been sprinkled in. I find it encouraging. I said when Avery Johnson came onto the scene, we took an episode and talked about it, and I said, I trust Chris Klieman to manage this quarterback situation beautifully. Like, it's just going to elevate the quarterback play. That's exactly what we've seen. Again, Kansas State wants to run the football. There's no secret about that, but they can throw the football very efficiently too. You look back at the Houston game, they only threw it 17 times with Will Howard, 15 of 17, $164, 2 touchdowns, very efficient. They don't turn the ball over, and this is a Kansas State team that when running the football is a very dangerous offense. And what's lost in the narrative, this is a team that's averaging 36 points per game. That's top 15 in the country. This offense is cooking with gas. But they are going up against a defense for Texas that I don't know how many groups I'm taking over this Texas defense, and not only in the Big 12, but in the country.
And my concern with Kansas State against this defense is I don't think they've seen a team with the team speed. I mean, I was watching this Texas team, like those linebackers fly around, those safeties come up, make big hits, big tackles right around the line of scrimmage. And Kansas State does like to go a little bit lateral, frankly, in how they run their offense. So doing that, I do think is kind of hard. And what you've seen Texas able to do against teams that do it is they're their athletes are just playing at a different level. They got a knack for the football, especially Jalen Ford, and Hill is playing so good. So that does seem to present a bit of a challenge, frankly, for what Kansas State wants to do.
I think you got to give a little bit more respect to that defensive line, though. Like, why these athletes?
I know.
Why these athletes are playing all this with this speed and looking so good? Tavondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, those guys are eating up on the inside. Tavondre Sweat, I think, is going to be a first-round draft pick. I mean, there's not a better interior defensive lineman playing at a higher level than Tavondre Sweat. 16.8 points per game. That's top 10 in the country. The big bugaboo here, 3.2 yards per carry. That's top 20. They've played some really good rushing attacks. The story is, because again, when this Kansas State team can run the football, that's when their offense is clicking. Can they run it against the Texas Longhorns team that is only big and physical in the trenches, but you said it best, a ton of speed and the ability to come up and make plays? That's the big question mark.
I think the question for, frankly, Texas and what they need to do a lot better based on the last couple of games is, I mean, against Houston, they just were getting picked apart in the middle. And you got a guy in Phillip Brooks who, when they like to run him through the middle of the field, he can be very dynamic. So to me, I'm looking these corners, these safeties, they got to find an answer to that, because I was watching that Houston game. I'm like, man, they're kind of going to the same thing, running quick slants through the middle, and they just really never found an answer. And I think you look at some of the guys of Phillip Brooks, I mean, he can be a weapon.
Oh, you're just sleeping on Ben Sinnott, too. You talk about attack in the middle of the field. Give some respect to my guy, Ben Sinnott, who works the seam better than anyone in the country, blocks better than anyone in the country. He's my favorite player. I love a lot of the players. I'm a huge Trayshawn Moore guy. I'm a huge Avery Johnson guy. Ben Sinnott is my guy on this Kansas State offense. The flipping sides, though, this Texas offense, a lot of the narrative is, what can Malik Murphy do with this Texas offense? And yes, is there a drop-off right now with Quinn Ewers? Yeah, you saw that. That being said, Malik Murphy's still super, super talented. There's a reason why a ton of Power 5 coaches were going after this kid after what they saw in the spring game. That being said, I'm not that concerned about this Texas offense, because Coach Sark is one of the best in the country at dialing it up and getting the football to their playmakers. But more importantly, this team is really two-dimensional. Like, Quinn Ewers can dice you up, but they can pound the rock as well, and that makes me feel better about Malik Murphy playing this good of a Kansas State defense.
And that's been the thing. They've been able to hold it down because Jonathan Brooks and this offensive line right now are just doing an unbelievable job doing what they do, running the ball, hitting big gash plays. I will say I'd like to see them open it up a little bit. I
think they will. I think against BYU, and I had that in my notes, like, they knew they could win with that offense. They might need to open it up a little bit more with Kansas State. And I have confidence with Malik Murphy to do so, but I have more confidence in a guy like Xavier Worthy and a guy like A.D. Mitchell and a guy like JT Sanders. I mean, this is one of the better, most dynamic pass catching groups in the country. And more importantly, they're electric with the football in their hands. Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, some quick screens, some easy throws. Get the ball to Xavier Worthy and good things happen. So Malik Murphy, yes, he's a backup quarterback. There might be a drop-off with Quinn Ewers. This team can still cook on the offensive side of the ball with all the talent. Flipping sides, though, this Kansas State team just shut out a Houston Cougars offense that I think is pretty good. Kansas State, you know what they're going to do. They're going to be stout in the run. They have a really good secondary, only giving up 18.1 points per game. Can Malik Murphy get it going against this Kansas State defense?
I mean, I think the bigger thing is I don't think Kansas State's been tested by a team that's as big and heavy, maybe aside from Oklahoma State, but their offensive line is obviously not what Texas is. That's a small unit up front. They like to play kind of small. They like to be athletic. They like to be able to run and make plays. But when you have to go up against the big dogs in Texas, where DJ Campbell, guys are running people off the ball, Banks is obviously who he is. I mean, this is a different type of offensive line than a lot of Big 12 teams like to throw at you. And they've been successful against Texas in the past, but I don't know. This is a different Texas team. I'm concerned that I'm kind of interested to see how they stop the run, because, again, they do like to play small in Texas. They're big and physical as they come.
In my notes, what I have is Kobe Savage has to have a good game. Like, a guy like who's really good in the box, because this Texas team's going to move some bodies up front. Can your speed, similar to what we saw with TCU last year, can your speed come up and make plays? That's what the big question is. Now, the double-edged sword to that is if you want to get your safeties getting their nose in the run game, it does open up the deeper third to guys like Xavier Worth and A.D. Mitchell. I think that's what makes this Texas offense so special. But I do think Kansas State is going to have to ask these safeties to kind of get up and play fast and play in this run game to stop what Texas wants to do. And then it's Malik Murphy. Can you hit the deep shots? Can Coach Sark dial it up?
That's why I said I think they do need to open it up, not just because Kansas State's a legitimate – they're a better defense than Houston and BYU.
100%.
And obviously, I think Texas knew that, yeah, they could probably run the ball and grind out a BYU. I don't know that you can just grind out Kansas State doing it like that.
I agree with you. 100%.
High-level defense.
Yeah, 100% they're going to need to open it a little bit more and put a little bit more responsibility on Malik Murphy. And again, I don't think it's what we saw against BYU is not like they don't trust Malik Murphy. I think they just knew we can ease him in and kind of win this game. They'll have to lean on Malik Murphy a little bit more in this game. They'll get into the pick here. Kansas State catching 7 points on the road in Austin, Texas. How are we feeling here?
I think Kansas State's going to keep it close enough with Malik Murphy. Not sure they're going to win this game, but I don't know what about the last game and a half or whatever it's been for Malik Murphy is tell you that he's going to have to show me something he hasn't showed me. And that's not to say he can't do it because obviously you're right, super talented, but I don't think they can win playing as conservative with him in this game. They can win the game. I don't think they can maybe cover a 7-point spread.
I hate to do this because I love this Kansas State team. Like I love Coach Kleiman. I love what he's doing. I think they're solid on both sides of the football. I think Texas is going to be able to get that run game going, but more importantly, I think Texas is going to be able to take away that run game from Kansas State. And I don't know if I trust Kansas State to kind of lean on Will Howard and kind of attack that deeper third and score enough points. Texas has playmakers on the offensive side of the ball with a mastermind in Coach Sark. They'll hit some explosive plays. I think this Texas front, again, why am I so high on Texas this year? That front seven is so freaking good. I'm going to ride with the Longhorns here. I think they'll be all right with Malik Murphy. Really excited for this one, though, because, again, Kansas State, awesome team. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys supporting the fellas, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.